All right, as we know, the San Francisco 49ers made two roster moves yesterday. They went out and traded for Keon White from the Patriots for a 6-7 pick swap. We did get some additional information from Tom Pelissero this morning. He did mention that seventh is a conditional that the 49ers received. So the stipulation is if Keon White is active for 6 games or 7 games, I believe that is. It's 7 games. That seventh round pick that the Patriots sent goes back to the Patriots. So it would turn into the 49ers giving up a 6 for Keon White if he is active for 6, 7 games. I'm sorry. I have children. Sorry. But anyways, let's talk about the other news. We've talked about this. I did a stream yesterday, and I had mentioned I don't think the 49ers are done. I think what these moves of getting Keon White and signing Cleveland Farrell, it removes a level of desperation from potential trade talks for a larger piece. And what I'm saying is, when you're going into a trade conversation, and let's say you want a Trey Hendrickson or a Kayvon Thibodeau, someone who is going to cost more, and you have no defensive lineman, the other team who's in taking these trade conversations knows they have you on the hook, knows they could probably squeeze a little bit more out of you because you're desperate. And so I think part of it is the 49ers insulate their depth. Keon White and Cleveland Farrell are quality depth, all things considered. No one's saying just yet that they are game changers, but their depth, and the 49ers desperately need it after they lost Travis Gibson off the practice squad to the Carolina Panthers. So, and even another guy that had been on the 49ers practice squad the last 2 years, who they probably would have signed, Jonathan Garvin, signed yesterday as well. So the 49ers did multiple things here. The first, they got depth. You need bodies. Like that's really the one of the biggest elements of this whole situation. You need healthy, active, able bodies regardless of, obviously you want them to be extremely talented, but we also understand the 49ers aren't going to go out here and they're not going to get, you know, Brian Burns. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the Brian Burns hive is buzzing. The 49ers, they're going over to New York this week. Maybe some conversations can be had. I don't know. We'll see. Do they come home with Kayvon Thibodeau or Brian Burns? We'll find out. Probably not. But there is another name that ESPN insiders are talking about, and basically saying that the 49ers aren't done. Like they're still going to be in on potential trade conversations. There are still a lot of available defensive ends. And I also kind of talked about yesterday what I think is kind of happening is there are definitely teams inquiring about edge players. There's a list of potential trade candidates. We've talked about Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, among the other, Trey Hendrickson. So there is a kind of like a waiting game, I think, happening at the top, where they're waiting for one of the top guys to get dealt to kind of set the market, the trade market, if you will. And then I think we'll see a domino of, teams, all right, that guy, this team grabbed that guy. Okay, now this team's going to grab that guy, and so on. So what we're hearing is that the 49ers are still interested in acquiring a trade. And these were the things that I was talking about yesterday. Is Keon White, to me, isn't the end-all be-all. It's a piece they needed, and I still think it actually opens up the door for a large trade to happen. This is what Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is saying. He says, up until this point, the Bengals have rebuffed trade inquiries, and sources have maintained that Cincinnati has no plans to trade Hendrickson right now. Keyword, right now. The Cowboys and 49ers are among the interested teams, although San Francisco made a move for a pass rusher Tuesday night. So obviously, and this has been reported multiple times, the 49ers have clearly been calling on Trey Hendrickson. I made a video about how I think Trey Hendrickson makes the most sense for the 49ers in regards to a big name edge trade, because he's a rental, because he is a high-end pass rusher. He can be a three-down edge, um, and you're not going to have to pay him the following year. Yes, you're going to have to give up capital, but you're not going to have to pay him. And I think that's also one of the big considerations when trading for a big-time edge, is because obviously you have to budget for all the other contracts. But Graziano says uh, he's looking at the 49ers, who need help at every single level of the defense, still have a winning record, and understand they are in the latter part of a championship window given the ages of some of their great veterans. There is no one-for-one move that would replace Nick Bosa and or Fred Warner, but the Niners owe it to the rest of their veteran roster not to white flag this season. I know they've been calling around about pass rushing help. They got some on Tuesday with White, and they've been known to be active and creative at the deadline in past years. I'm feeling confident they'll do something beyond what they have done already. So, there you have it. The 49ers, and I believe it. We talked about this last night. I don't think that the Keon White trade is like, oh, we've done it, we've done enough. And I've seen a lot of comments like, oh, wow, look at the 49ers. They did so many great, oh, Keon White, da-da-da. It's like, you got to look at the big picture. And I know not every fan has a big picture mentality. That's why they just look at what's directly in front of them and they either complain or whatever. But it's like, you have to look at the big picture. The 49ers need bodies. Check that box. Now they can really shop for, okay, how do we get a difference maker? Obviously, just like they had mentioned in the article, no one is going to come in here and replace Fred Warner. No one's going to come in here and replace Nick Bosa. But as we've talked about, I also mentioned this on my stream yesterday when people were talking about, man, do we need to go get safety help? You need pass rush. One of the biggest ways that the 49ers can help their back end, really honestly, I mean, not a ton of experience for Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown, or Marquise Siegel. I would say probably Marquise Siegel has probably played more active snaps than Jair Brown has up until this point. I'd be interested if that's true, but that's just my gut feeling. And then obviously Malik Mustafa is coming back from an injury, and one of the best ways to help a young secondary, obviously Renardo Green in year 2, Upton Stout, a rookie, or if they go to Chase Lucas, he doesn't have a ton of experience. The best way that you can aid these guys is with a pass rush. If the quarterback can't hold the ball beyond 2.5 seconds, that is a huge opportunity and a huge way that you can help those guys. And you don't have to go out and trade for additional secondary, because you can get home with 4. And that's where the 49ers need to be right now, is they need to be able to line up their defensive line. They need to create pressure from the outside, and they need to create pressure from the interior. Keon White, Michael Williams are great interior rushers. And if you add more help, you get Yetur Gross-Matos back, you get a Trey Hendrickson, you get someone else, Bryce Huff returns, then you kind of level out the rotation while Nick Bosa is out, and that will help your back end. That will help your linebackers, who obviously aren't going to be as good of cover linebackers as Fred Warner is. Fred Warner is elite cover linebacker. So I think that, just like they said in the article, they owe it to themselves. They owe it to their veterans. They're 5-3. Go make a move, man. Go push. Go, like, there's no rolling over. And that's what I also said yesterday, is that I said these moves indicate, the trade indicates to me that the 49ers aren't rolling over. because to me it's one step, it's a Lego, it's a brick in order to get to one of these bigger moves. And so that's the way that I'm looking at it. Again, I think fans have a also kind of narrow mindset when it comes to the fact that it takes sometimes three to tango. The player has to be able to bless the trade. It's not always that way. But, just like we saw with Alvin Kamara, he's like, I'm going to retire. I'm not saying every player is like that, but it is a circumstance to it, especially if a contract is needed. It's not always going to be the end-all, be-all, but it can be a consideration at times. But, of course, you need the other team and the San Francisco 49ers to agree on the compensation. It obviously has to make sense for the San Francisco 49ers in regards to their cap. There's a lot of moving parts. So, yes, I would love to Madden a couple trades, just, oh, yeah, oh, their best player, let's just give them Jawan and a second and this, boom, done deal. It's not always that way. You could send and we've seen it, think about when the San Francisco 49ers and the story of the 49ers trying to trade for Khalil Mack. John Lynch came out and said, I believe we had the better trade package, but the Raiders refused to trade with the 49ers. So you can have the better trade package on the table. Similar thing happened with OBJ. The 49ers were very aggressive after Odell Beckham Jr., and I guarantee they put together a better trade compensation than what the Browns did. But I think Dave Gettleman was more concerned about having OBJ go off to obscurity so he didn't look like an idiot for trading him opposed to getting max value. So again, that's the politics of football, and those are the other things that we don't see that don't go into these quote-unquote Madden trades. So what I do fully believe, though, is that the San Francisco 49ers are still making calls. And I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers got maybe one or two more trades in them. It'll be fascinating to see. What I really want to see is who are the 49ers potentially offering up? Because the 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they haven't traded away that many players. And I'm trying to even rack my brain to even think of guys that they have moved on from, and honestly not one. I mean, you can probably let me know in the comments if you got of players they've traded, but I can't think of many. So we'll see what happens here. And if the 49ers look at Juwan Jennings and say, you know what, you're not going to get a new contract by us at the end of this year. You already declined our 3-year offer worth up to $16 million per year annually. All right, let's just move on. Clean break. Ricky's going to be back soon, hopefully. Brandon Ayuk is going to be back soon, hopefully. You have Jordan Watkins, hopefully, can get reacclimated into the mix. You have Demarcus Robinson. Who knows what's going on with Jacob Cowing? Kind of feels like a medical redshirt year for him. But you have that guy potentially available if you need another wide receiver. So I'm of the mindset, I'm curious. Do they trade Juwan Jennings, and what do they do here at the deadline? I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers are going to continue to be active, and I feel like they're going to come away with someone. Who do you think that person is? Do you think they're going to trade Juwan Jennings? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.